All right, let's, we all stand for the pledge, please. Over right here. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone, for attending the 27th Board of Selectmen's meeting. By the lead, Board of members, Joe Bailey here.
John Hutchins here.
John Colleary.
Glad to see you, John.
Thank you. When you consider the alternatives, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. What was that, a farm hall?
That was the Massey Harris.
Oh, the Massey.
Massey Harris. I don't know if I can do it until it warms up, but there's a big dent in the cement I gotta fix now with my head here.
You can't tell he had a dent in his head, can you?
No, I was surprised to see him. I didn't know we'd see him tonight.
And a scar open from here, way down into the hairline.
Hairline? I'm sorry.
Jeez. No respect here.
Oh, look, there's nothing gonna happen. All right. Signatures, minutes from the Board of Selectmen meeting of 11/13.
I'm going to abstain.
You have a motion on the floor to accept the minutes of November 13th. I make a motion to accept them. Okay. Second. Approve. Aye. Aye.
Abstain.
Okay. Network switch approved.
Okay, so Armand's been here. And
Armand's always here.
I know, they're like family now.
I know.
Our switch upstairs has been humming, so they think the fan is going, so it needs to be replaced. Right now we have a temporary loaner, because if the thing doesn't work, none of us have computers, is what he's saying. I've circled the part of the quote, because this is everything that we were gonna do, so that's not the bottom line. Just this is what I wanna replace right now. So we have computers. Because our equipment's quite old, some of the stuff upstairs.
What's old about computer? 5 years? 6
3.
years?
The minute you
Yeah.
take it out the door.
Obsolescence is 3 years.
And one of you is on the shelf before you buy it.
Right. This was here well before me, so you know it's at least 4 years old.
We put them in.
He's 20 years old.
20 years old.
Well, it started humming last week, and Quinn's like, something's humming, and I thought it was that battery thing we just replaced, and it wasn't. It's the
It's
switch
amazing how
thing.
one thing just leads to another, leads to another, leads to another.
But I think it's we bought it all at the same time.
It's when the girl was the IT. That's when we put
It's better if you don't buy it all once that. you
Break
can
it
go
up.
in.
it. So,
You
Those
make a
fans
chance.
run like 24 hours a day though, man. How many houses have got in it?
The other part of it is like how low they are to the floor. They're like a little vacuum, but they just suck everything into it.
So we're responsible for the switch, it's not the output.
We own all the equipment. Yeah. We don't see this.
Those 2,000.
Do we have any money in our equipment line?
We do. That's,
It's dwindling kind of fast here. I know
It
that.
is.
So.
we have 3,100 in our new equipment and cable. And then we also have 1,000 in our office equipment repairs. So if we had to take it from there, we could too.
Move we expend an amount not to exceed 2,000 to cover the cost of the new fan.
Second.
All in favor?
Alright,
Down and out. We're not operating.
Basically what you can do when you have to.
well, not much choice.
Okay, now we got something near and dear to Laura's heart.
It is.
Our copier agreement.
Okay, so our copier is how old, Raj? 9 years, I guess?
No,
It's,
no.
20-year-old from Roger.
That's 20 years old. That's what, the first year I was selected, that's what we got.
Okay, so if you want to make a copy, it takes you probably 5 minutes to hold in the door to get it to turn on. And then if you want to make a double-sided copy, it takes 2 of you, one to hold in the door, one to pick out the paper out of the jam. So it doesn't really work anymore. So we've met with 3 different companies, And this is our best deal from Sharp, from a guy in Portsmouth. So, and Kathleen literally worked her magic and got it even lower than he quoted us the first time. So, Roger was here the other day, he actually brought the machine in so we could see what it would do, and it's gonna actually eliminate a few other copiers in the building, so you wouldn't have to buy the ink and stuff for those.
Is that the guy that I met?
It might have been, yeah. So, okay, so for 2 copiers, one for the police and one for here, it's going to be $255 a month. That includes everything, all their maintenance, all the ink, all of that.
Per unit or together?
Nope, that's together.
Well, it doesn't include paper, does it?
No, but this one doesn't either.
Includes the ink.
No paper,
Yep.
no staple.
And it'll do color, so it's including a color ink up to so many pages per month, which is 5,000 black and 500 color included
A month?
a month.
So if you
That's
don't
a
use
lot.
Between the
five,
two machines, or?
No, each.
so that's.
I just went through this process myself, so I can tell.
So is that a good deal?
Yes.
So then he
Who's that
brought,
with?
CT, Connected Office out of Portsmouth. So then he brought the scanner thing, he goes, you guys scan a lot, we do. So this is what that looks like, okay, just so you can see. It sits right on your desk, and you just scan everything, it's like seconds. So he's like, we can give you one of these each for like $40 a month or $50 a month, because this is great. He threw those in for free. We don't pay anything for those, for the whole entire lease, nothing.
How long is the lease?
I think it's 5 years, 60 months.
Oh, yeah.
So on your color copper, you get 500 a month, if you don't use them 500 this month, and you need 500, that's 1,000, does it carry over?
Yes.
So it's
Annual.
per year?
Annual.
Okay.
Yep. And then,
ask.
And if you go over it, it costs more money per copy than a black and white does.
What was
right,
the-
which is 5 cents, and then, which is color, and the black and white is .007 a copy if you go over. We have a contract right now for only 30,000 a year, and we've never gone over that. This is gonna be 60,000 a year.
Okay, well, just gotta ask the question.
Yep, nope, is it this one? Nope, that's not that one. This is the one we want.
Then when is the contract for the guys we have now run out?
One is July and one is August
Of next year?
of 18. But we don't wanna wait, cause they've come to fix it and we end up taping it, it doesn't work.
Are we penalized for getting out of the other contract?
No, you just gotta
9
give
months
30
early?
days. Nope,
Alright. You mentioned that there could be other copiers removed.
yep, because she's got 3 in her office. The new one would actually fax scan and you can email right from the copier. Like you just pull up the little keyboard and do it right there, so you wouldn't need to print all over. Like Gwen said she'd be able to use hers, cause she can do it all from here quicker. It'd be faster.
So eliminate one out of this office?
Yeah.
Well,
And the fax out of there, cause we'll fax out of here as well.
that's 2 machines.
My all-in-one I wouldn't need, cause I could scan, fax, and email from there. So that's
3
2.
upstairs.
Gwen's wouldn't need hers
Okay.
One of the ink cartridges that she just supplied cost $101.
for one,
Right.
yeah.
And then, the highway department could use this and just walk over and use it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they do. I mean, I do most of their
You know how to
copying
run it,
anything.
right?
The big thing is that little scanner that's on, every,
Yeah, here, this
she
is
can
that
scan in
scanner.
every piece of paper that comes in. She
How much of an added
whips
cost
that
per
in here
month?
and gives you.
Okay, so currently, right now, we pay, here's my sticky note. Contract for both is $12.40 a year. The new one will go up to $18.20 more, but in the first year, it's only gonna go up $800 because he's giving us 90 days free and then a $600 rebate, which takes care of 2 more months. So we're gonna get 5 months free. We won't end up paying until May of 18, anything on these.
So 1,800 a year versus 1,200 a year.
No, it'd be double that. It'd be $30.60 a year for both. Currently, we pay $12.40
For
for
both.
the 2, yep. It's gonna be that much more. So together it'd be this, for the 2 new ones, a year. But the paper thing doubles, plus these do color, the ones we have now don't. And like I said, no payments till May.
But the cost savings for ink
But would be a lot,
between the
yeah.
2 machines.
Between the 3 or 4
5
will
machines, so you
eliminate,
get rid
yeah.
of it, yeah.
You figure, mine, what'd you say, like 107. Kathleen's has gotta be at least 100, if not more, for hers. Gwen's, I know, is like 130 for hers.
This is a more serious question for Rick. Of the other copies that are no longer gonna be used, are any of them newer than what he has over at his highway department, and therefore would be worthwhile?
Didn't we just get you one? Yeah, we just got him one.
So,
But we wouldn't throw them away by any means, we'll just keep them until, somebody needs them. better one.
The big deal, the
But we won't need any ink.
Remember when Chief, you weren't here the last, I apologize, but you were here. Remember when Chief said that confidentiality was a big thing for him? Those things help him out a lot. So whatever, he can put his own files in there, do everything he wants on there, we can't do that.
Did you know they have hard drives in them? Does anybody realize that?
Yes.
I did not know that.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
everything you copy is on that hard drive. So
Unless,
you can't just throw that away.
unless you set it to,
Yeah.
the modern ones are set to automatically overwrite themselves because of a big scam that was going on in the state government. They would get all new photocopiers and the photocopiers would be shipped out and people were taking the hard drives out of them and then going through the hard drives and they'd see all the birth records, death records, social security records, and they were hacking people's, it's a
So
big
I'm gonna
deal.
ask you like that, what happens to this one here?
I believe he's gonna take the,
Take the hard drive out.
Yeah.
He said he's gonna destroy
And
the hard
certify it.
drive,
Yep.
and he's gonna give you
Yeah.
a document that
In
will
your
destroy
pocket.
the hard.
So we don't have to turn that back, we own
To
that.
bury it
machine
somewhere.
yeah, we don't know.
Yeah, tell me about
So
it.
this
now. And
one,
at the end of 5 years, we'll own these ones, so.
Thank you.
you can get brand new ones. You can always have a new one. Right. So this copy right here, we actually demonstrated, you can take a document and scan it, say a two-sided document, you can turn the pages around like one's upside down, you can eliminate some pages, you can black out names on some, so like when the police do a report, she can literally black it out on the screen, and then she can email it, there's like no paper. It's almost going paperless, what we can do with this new, which is our hope in the future, just to have nothing in paper.
Of course, the selectmen will have to go through a training course to learn that.
Trained right there.
No, this guy said he was coming to training, because we're gonna have to go through all the department, all, you know, to find out if we're gonna, especially my secretary and stuff like that, if she's gonna send stuff over, you know that, so.
He's eliminating
He's got a
the setup fee, what is it called?
Planning board.
The,
Oh, yeah.
delivery and installation fee should be $175, he waived that. The network installation fee was $125 and he waived that. So the only thing I'd have is my $75 application fee.
Gee, what'd you
Don't
bribe
know.
him with?
Well, you know what we did is that, like I said, we went to the conference and we talked to several people. So we bartered, we said, well, he's gonna give it to us for less, so he matched it. Like Kathleen was working her magic. And then he threw in the scanners and I'm like, okay, well, that's a nice deal. Cause that's $100 right there a month that we wanted.
And this is a shop?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
This is a-
it was nice, it was here.
Yeah, and he said it automatically upgrades itself too.
Keeping in mind though that having a municipality as one of your clients that you can advertise as one of your clients
Well, he was
does a
going,
lot for that company
he
too.
was going right over to Milton after he did here, so.
How many years is this for?
municipalities.
5? I move we accept this bid from Sharp for a lease of copy equipment for a term of 5 years,
For a second.
as per the quoted price.
Perfect.
Any more discussion about it? All in favor?
Aye.
Do you want me to sign it when it comes in corrected? Cause I don't wanna sign the one that says the wrong price. I refuse
No,
to.
neither do I.
Yeah, okay, so I'll just sign the one that comes in when it's done.
Yeah. Or get one of us.
Thanks.
Alright, moving right along, preliminary sales ratio.
And this is from Gwen, the new ratio figure came in, and we're at 92.5. So she needs that signed by you guys. For DRA.
Explain what sales ratio is.
So it's like what our homes are valued at from what they're selling at, is how she explained it. If anybody else knows, right? Yeah.
So they're selling for 92% of what they're valued at?
Right.
Okay.
So my house is worth 100,000 and I'm getting 92,000 for it? I want more money.
I'm guessing some parts of the state are more. Some parts are less.
Lara, is that a cumulative figure?
This one?
Yeah, the 92.5. It's not like each house is selling for 92% more.
No, that's a cumulative.
Okay.
Single family homes at 92, waterfront at 90. So,
right.
yeah, it varies.
Average number then. It's not, John. Okay. You sorry?
Did you get my message that I left you?
Yeah. This lady at the lake shore, I got her.
I said, I wonder if he's just picking up the message now from when they even know.
Thought I had nearly saved that was popped up. No, yours is saved, you called and said it was, now I know, so I won't do that again, right, no.
It's like called Ken because he was working on a generator that weekend. And I said, did you look for something on Zeus generator? He says, no, fine. And I told him, and he says, you better call him because he might ask for somebody else.
Yeah.
All right. Old business, we're gonna move into the highway project bids. Okay. So we had 7 bids sent in. One was not even, nothing was factual, whatever, we had to just not entertain that bid. We didn't take the highest, we didn't take the lowest, so about 3 in the middle. And out of the 3 in the middle, did you bring a piece of
Yeah, I
paper?
was gonna say it's in the office.
You wanna go grab it?
Yeah, the keys to the office.
Rick, while we're waiting, roof's still on.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we had one bid, 224,364, and the lowest one was 53,000. And the next one that we went with was 133,800, which is Nelson. So, I forget where they're out of the folders in the office and like that, but that's the one we're gonna go with. So that was that to bid.
What's the name of the company?
Nelson. Rick, do you know who they are?
And they just, like you know, about the same thing, it's just Nelson, I believe.
Afterwards, Joey and I get the phone and give you the full name and stuff like that, so, okay?
They had quite a resume
So,
too.
all right, so, next one on the agenda is the neighborhood ordinance. Do we have that with us?
No, you were supposed to look at it.
Well, I did look into it, but
I
what
don't
we're
have
going to do is, there's still some controversy about whether we're going to charge the landlord if the tenants don't take care of what they're supposed to be doing, okay? Finding the landlord themselves. That's the hang up that we have with it.
Honestly, I think it's, if you don't hold the landlord accountable, you've basically completely washed out the ordinance. Because if, for example, my neighbors, first of all, I have a property owner who just wants money, it's all about the money. And I have neighbors who don't give a crap, and you fine them, they don't care because they probably don't pay any of their other bills. So what's gonna be the penalty if they get fined by the town and they don't pay?
They're not gonna pay. The deal is that the property owner to give the property owners an incentive not to put that kind of people in those residences is to punish them. That was this, is because you can take people like my neighbors and you can call the police out there every other day, and it doesn't do anything to the property owner. This is the 3rd family since we lived in that house, and I think we're all familiar with where I live. There's been 3 families that have been in there. The first family, I was awakened by a string of police cars and a police dog that was over there to search for drugs. All right? The second family had a dog that none of the adults could get out of the yard because they had ankle bracelets on. They had a Great Dane that would run through the yard. They'd send their little kids out, and it would drag the kid down the road. I felt sorry for the kids. But then they were running drugs and stuff out of there. Now I've got these people over there that have had drug parties. They've threatened my wife, and that is still in the courts. I'm a little bit upset about that still. But that being said, the property owner, her words exactly, I rent to Section 8 because it's a guaranteed check. She cares nothing about what kind of neighbor she's putting into this community. Now, it's not just me, but the people that have lived in that house across the street have broken into other houses on that street.
And have admitted it.
And so this whole ordinance was to go, you know, the police can only go after the perpetrator of the crime. It gives the town, this ordinance gives the town some teeth. I mean, they could use it judiciously, but it gives the town some recourse to go after these property owners as well. That's all. It wasn't to go after somebody's son who was, I mean, I saw the YouTube tape, and it was, I understand what you're saying, yeah, you know, am I responsible for my son? Well, if he's on your property, you will be, ultimately. I mean, insurance companies, they go after the property owners. So I think the town do the same.
Any comment? I totally understand. I'm all for it as far as holding them accountable. I know as a property owner, if I was to rent my house and there was an issue, whether the yard looks bad or the property is in disarray, it's my responsibility. Ultimately, it would be my responsibility. It would never get to that point because I would be the landlord and I am responsible.
And this is not even the whole, like, what the property looks like. This is the people that are in it that are raising hell in the neighborhood, who are having the police go by constantly, and the police have their hands up in the air because they can only do so much. And that's why for you as a property owner, John, when I see anybody on your property that you've got for sale, if I see them, I message you right away because I know one kid falls, breaks their leg, that's a payday for those parents or for whoever else.
I get what you're saying. I feel for you. I wholeheartedly agree with you. Not only is there an issue with that street, there's an issue with my house that was broken into twice now.
Yeah.
You know, not to take it personal or to put blame on any individual. We all know who it is.
Yeah.
But to hold people accountable, the police can only do so much.
Exactly, and this gives the police a little bit more leverage to help keep things
There's
orderly.
There's 6 houses on the street, 4 have been broken into, and mine's twice.
Yeah.
You know, as far as holding someone accountable, because of the activity on the street, the activity of their certain household, I can give you a list of things that are wrong, but I'm no better than anybody else, so how can I say what's wrong versus what's right?
A good property owner, our last place that we rented, our lease was 10 pages long, and the man itemized every little thing that we could and couldn't do, up to what kind of grill we could have on the deck, what kind of things I could have hung on the front door, up to I could only use 3Ms on the wall, I could not put a tack in it, and if I wanted my television mounted on the wall, I had to call him, set up an appointment, and he was to mount everything after he approved the mounting thing that I bought. So as a property owner, if you are a responsible property owner, you will have that in your lease of Middleton has whatever ordinance, these are the rules, here's a copy of the ordinance, you abide by it or you get the hell out. Most property owners will also only rent to somebody who has a job and a paycheck coming in, not somebody who has an ankle bracelet or is only on Section 8 and saying that they're down and out and needing a job and doesn't have a car and the closest store is what, 15 minutes away? So it's to take care of property owners like that and hold them accountable. So they had, within 1 year of us owning our property, they had 3 tenants, and that was with a 7-month gap of the house being empty. And I had to call the police 3 times within the first year of me being there because of the house. When you talk to a police officer who only works 1 day a week, and he knows the house all too well, and he knows the inside of the house better than his own, you got a problem. You gotta give these police, the 6 that we have in this town, some kind of leverage to get rid of people like this.
I will tell you.
I mean, I paid over $6,000 last year in property taxes. I don't expect to live across the street or deal with people like this, and this will help. And I truly think that if you take the landlord responsibility out, it's a conflict of interest for at least one of you guys on the board, if not more. It's a conflict of interest. Because you're really thinking of yourself and you're not thinking of the rest of the town. I think it should be, the landlord should be held responsible, and the chief should be deciding on if they get a fine and if they don't.
I will tell you, everyone in this room would probably not like their living situation of what they're going through. I'm not looking for Citizenship of the Year award, but we did have the building enforcer go down because of all the trash in other properties' yards, not their own, other properties. Nothing was done with the property owners. I took it upon myself at 6:30 in the morning to clean the whole area of other people's properties. And while I was out to Home Depot, they called the police and said I put bees' nests in their mailbox. I had the whole street lined up with trash. That was on town property and also my property. So, something has to be done. I'm all for this ordinance. It's to protect everyone in town. I shouldn't have to live like that, and I'm in the same boat as she is, and I'm not, taking it personal. I think everyone in the town of Middleton should not go through what we're all going through.
You have no comment?
No, she pretty well spelled it out. She does that very well and very eloquently.
When you've been threatened and your life has been threatened and you've gone through court multiple times and you have to go back to court in January for something that happened a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
I get that. That's a total, I don't want to say it's a totally separate issue.
But these people would have been gone had we had an ordinance like this, and had
Possibly.
that property owner,
Yeah.
had that property owner been fined and it was affecting her bank account, she would have had those people.
It goes after the root cause of this. It goes after the property owner. The property owner, if it's my son and I put him up in a property next door, I am gonna be a good father too. Okay? Yes, I'm not responsible 100% for every little thing that he does. But if I put him up in that, I bear some of the responsibility. That's just how I see it. Now, a landlord who says, I don't care what goes on over there, as long as that check comes in, there's the problem. And so that's what you go after. If you penalize that person financially, which is what this ordinance was designed to do, up to and including taking that property, that may make them think, may make them put extra stipulations in the contract or something. So that's all we were looking to do was just to make sure that ordinance did not get gutted to say, well, we'll just go after the tenant. No, it's to go after the property owner who actually puts these people in these properties.
Jen?
They gotta be real careful, and you guys gotta be real careful with that too, because the laws out there more protect the tenant than they do the landlord. And you can't make it stricter than what the state and federal guidelines are.
Well,
And I understand what these guys are saying, and I feel for them. We've gone through a similar situation. And I've got an application now I've had 3 people turn in applications to me to rent my apartment, and I've said, see you, pal, because they've lied on the applications. But I mean,
But you're doing your part by doing an
and I-
application.
And I understand that. And instead of coming to the selectmen and making that complaint, if you know these guys are getting Section 8, call New Hampshire Housing.
I do, and you know what, I do, I
we
called
have
the,
called
I have
numerous
called them
times.
so many times, and what they say is we can't give you any information at all, that's private, that's confidential,
Yes, but if they're doing something
and they don't.
wrong, then
They
they
don't.
should be able to cut their housing funds
They
off.
don't. This woman is gonna have felony charges against her. They have done
Then they shouldn't
I'll
have
guarantee
housing.
that she will know what goes on in this room here before we leave. 'Cause I don't know how she does.
It's on video behind you.
Well, I know that we was watching on YouTube here before you came in. Watching the meetings catching up.
But if it works for the, if it's worked for the town of Franklin, and I spoke with both chief and then the other officer that came from Franklin, and they said it worked great and they saw a big difference, then why not keep some of that? Why not keep the property owner accountable? The town is not, and it's not just, you know, I think of not just what it's costing this town and the police showing up every single time, and when all of the police know, oh yeah, I know your house, I'll be there in 5 minutes. We're also paying for their kids to go to our schools that I pay for, that everybody in here that pays for properties pay for, and that they're kicked off the buses because they're behavioral problems too. It's like, we can eliminate a lot of problems if you just keep the ordinance the way it is.
I can understand holding the, you know, I can understand the positives and the negatives of holding the homeowner responsible. The house on Callan Road is my second home. If I wanted to rent it out, I could rent it out. Should I be responsible for someone else? Half of me says yes, half of me says no. Yes, I should be responsible based on the way the house looks. The, you know, the decor, the outside, the trash. That's a reflection on me, and I wouldn't allow it. As far as, you know, a noise ordinance or anything like that, that should coincide with this neighborhood policy that I feel that should be enacted. You know, hold people accountable, whether you're a landlord or one house or 10 or 12 or 20.
And in many leases, every single lease that we have signed, and we've, over the past 9 years of being married, we've signed many because we've traveled all over. Every single lease that we've ever had stipulated noise ordinance, you know, you're not gonna be loud after this time, you're not gonna do this, you're not gonna do X, Y, and Z. If the police are called, you're out. So you can have that stipulated in your lease, and if anything, as a property owner, it gives you more of a stronghold if you put that in your lease of getting rid of them if they did become a problem. I think it would work in the favor of the property owner. And that where if you did go to court and wanted to evict them, you could say to the judge, hey, look, we have this ordinance, they're not abiding by it, I made them fully aware of it, and now I'm having to pay all this extra money because they're not abiding by their lease and the ordinance.
I mean, everyone has a right to an apartment, a house, you know, to live. But everyone, including myself, we need to play by the rules. You know, we pay our rent and mortgage every month. They need to pay their rent and mortgage every month to them or the homeowner getting it from agencies. But to deal with what you guys have been going through, I mean, it's difficult. I mean, there's stories that is public, I'm not gonna comment right now, that's not my place, but, you know, it's hard. I mean, and I totally understand. And, you know, I know Joe, we had the attorney look at it, take out Middleton, I know Laura's been working on it. You know, I'm all for it. I don't know if the other two members are for it, but as far as an ordinance for the town, I feel something should be done to protect and help everyone in town.
I mean, I think even with the ordinance, does not it give the selectmen some discretion at all?
What was the question?
Doesn't this ordinance give some discretion to the selectmen on the enforcement of that?
No,
We don't enforce
up
it,
to
we
the
just,
chief.
we adopt the ordinance and then
Okay.
the police department takes it from
I
there.
mean, I'm not looking for that, I'm looking for, you know, if you're not doing something correctly, you know, then you're gonna get caught, and if you get caught, that's why there's rules. I mean, we have
Right,
signs.
well, I will tell you that the property right across the street, that's almost within spitting distance of my driveway, the number of transients that are in and out, that are known heroin addicts, that are known thieves,
Mhm.
which continues unabated.
That's,
Unabated.
I'm no expert in this area, but I am a former police officer in this town. I've also evicted people from this town as a lawyer. I can tell you that the ordinance is aiming at legislating something that it may or may not actually legislate. If the ordinance does result in the landlords putting something in their lease that requires compliance with the local ordinance and it's drafted well, it's true, it might help them somewhat, but the statutes in New Hampshire, in particular RSA 540:2, which regards evictions, permit evictions for only a very limited number of reasons. It's grounds for termination of a tenancy, according to the statute, and violating an ordinance is not grounds for terminating a tenancy. And if a lease is drafted in such a manner so as to make violation of an ordinance a material term of the lease, which I think is a stretch, legally speaking, it might be grounds for termination of the tenancy. But I don't think that creating the ordinance is necessarily a shoe-in to get rid of people who violate the ordinance.
But as a property owner, you'd think twice about being a little bit more diligent in who you rent it to.
Good thing.
Exactly, the town doing something is probably a step in the right direction. I obviously hear the frustration of people in the room, and I'm sure they're not the only ones in town that have that.
Counselor, if I came to you,
He can bill you for this.
no, because I'm on the other side, let's say we litigate. If I can come to you and say, I wanna have a 2-year lease with you, no questions asked, we'll give you guaranteed money, I'll give you all your money up front. Would you sign it?
Would I personally sign it?
You own a home,
Yep.
2-year lease, I'll give you 2 years worth of all upfront money right now. Would you sign it?
No.
Why?
A, I don't know who you are, what you do, what you wanna do with my property.
Okay?
I would love to have that money in the bank, but that's fraught with issues as well, because if you leave before the end of the 2 years, I have to then potentially give you money back, so on and so forth, so I would,
And there's the difference between you and someone else.
Of course.
You and me, and,
No,
and
I get
that's
it.
the only reason why I gave that example.
no, I get it. And Section 8, you know, the issues that they're dealing with, where Section 8 won't give you any information, standard, classic, of course they won't. But that voucher, depending on what program they're using, but that voucher is a very important thing to most people. They can lose it. Generally speaking, though, they lose that as a result of being evicted because of the HAP contract that they have with New Hampshire Housing. The HAP contract generally reads that if you are evicted, you can lose the voucher. So the town doing something like the ordinance that allows, if the landlord chooses, which is something you can't legislate,
Correct.
if the landlord chooses to put something in their lease, hopefully it's more than a page, you know, it might lead to a situation where it brings about a
But
result.
whether it's Section 8, whether it's private, such as myself as a landlord,
Right, me too.
or a woman shelter, someone that's been battered and, someone put up a woman shelter. Everyone should be able to play by the same rules as far as having a town ordinance to uphold their living area.
I don't disagree with you, I'm not against the, or in favor, I'm just trying to give you a perspective. The
Okay.
other thing is that this ordinance is gonna have some monetary effect to it because there's an enforcement issue that needs to be dealt with. And how law enforcement then goes and deals with enforcing this ordinance that is basically a pseudo landlord tenant issue. That's asking law enforcement, a criminal enforcement agency, to enforce something that is pseudo civil in nature. But I mean, an ordinance is an ordinance. If they violate the ordinance, just like a noise ordinance, it's an issue that they can follow up on. I mean, obviously.
Everything is subject to debate, everything is subject to litigation. But if you go in, and if there is an ordinance, and if there is lawsuit in the future, as long as you have your homework done and you have all these episodes from A to Z, this date, this date, this date, whether it's illegal business out of people's homes or this or that, or how many cars are in the driveway. You know, there's reasons why we're doing this.
Yeah, I mean, your job is to make sure that the ordinance bears a rational basis to what you're trying to govern. As long as you're doing that, I mean, you know, you're doing something. You're giving these folks at least some place to start. You know? I mean, it may not be. It may not be an end all be all. It may not be a silver bullet that, you know, hey, okay, magic happens and they're out. But at least it's a start. You know?
But the big thing is also too, if you're making the landowner responsible for what that individual in there is doing, somewhere down the road, if it's gonna hurt that landowner in the pocketbook, he's gonna make, she, whoever it is gonna make sure that they check those people out a lot better.
Bottom line is money
Background
talks.
before they put them in. Section 8, just tell the landowner, hey, look, we're fining you, and we're gonna let the people know down there that these people are on Section 8, and let them handle it from there. But you gotta hurt somebody in the pocket.
I have nothing against the people that are Section 8. I work with nurses who remind me of that, saying that their families have been on Section 8, and you know, for what it was designed for. That's not what it is about. It is really, like I said, the property owner who just doesn't really care what goes in that property.
That's exactly right.
And
She don't
it's
care.
just to go
And she
after
said it.
those people.
Okay, John?
I hear you.
I see a very slippery slope here. To what extent is any one of us responsible for the actions of another? Clearly in our society, parents are responsible for their children under the age of 18.
But if you are renting that home as a renter, you are responsible for those people in that house.
Okay.
No, you're not.
And if I was,
How about this? I have waterfront property. Boat goes by in front of my property too fast. Am I responsible? Why not? It's front of my property.
So
I'm
if you,
there watching them go through. All right, let's go another step.
Yeah,
How about,
there's
oh,
no
I'm sorry, I
contractual.
thought I was talking
There's
there.
no contractual
One
relationship.
time now, one time, please. Go ahead, John.
I'm a person 3 houses down, and this house up here has a lot of junk in the yard, and I don't report it. Am I responsible? Slippery slope.
If
To
you
what
were to-
extent do we hold one person accountable for the actions of others?
Of course you, if you're 3 houses down, you don't report it, no, because you ain't the landowner. But if you are the
I live on the
landowner and
street.
rent it to that individual.
I live on the street,
Of
I'm a
course
neighbor.
you should be, well, then report it.
If
but
I
the
don't,
thing
what
about-
happens?
No big deal,
Well,
because
why
there's no
not? Why not
ordinance.
have an ordinance that says it's my responsibility to
There
report
isn't
it?
an ordinance, it says, the ordinance says, if you own that property, and those people in that property are goofing it up, it is your responsibility to go down there and tell them to knock it off.
But do you see where this is a slippery slope?
no, it's
This
black and
ordinance
white.
could result in another ordinance, and another one.
I've been trying to be polite and just raise my hand when I want to talk, but I'm gonna jump in here. A question, is the ordinance drafted already?
It is an ordinance that's already been adopted and in use, current use in the town of Franklin.
Okay, so
It
that's
was
the
brought
one,
to us as something that potentially we could use here.
okay.
So we don't have one currently in place?
No, that's what we're debating here, but no, this is the one that they're using on, so.
Well, it's kind of hard to comment on an ordinance when not knowing the wording of that particular ordinance.
Well,
As a previous landowner, property owner, and landlord myself, and as a property manager for something of upwards of 100 units, I was aware of a legal situation where if a property owner is aware that the law is being broken and the situation continues, the property owner can be held liable. So one of the things that I don't know how often or if it's in the purview of the police to do so, if it's been done, or even considered, but the property owner should be made aware that the police have been called multiple times. Just having a neighbor complain about the landlords to the property owner, about the tenants to the property owner, I don't know if that would bear the same weight as having a police chief contact a property owner and say, we have been to your property which you own at such and such an address on this date, and this date, and this date, and these are the violations. If this continues, we wanted to make you aware of it, so
So if this continues, what happens next?
that's,
You gotta
that's
have
what,
that
we need to know what that ordinance is. It's kind of hard to comment on an ordinance that I haven't read.
Let's say it's $100 fine for each time the police has to go there.
Maybe something as ambiguous, and I realize that could be a problem too, but something as ambiguous as if the situation continues, you as a property owner may be held liable for the costs incurred by the town of Middleton for the police responses. Just putting it out for food for thought.
Joan? If you read the Franklin ordinance, it actually does state that it's so many calls to the residents within a period of time. I think it had an increment of like 3 months or 6 months or whatever it is. It was after the third or fourth incident, the landlord would have been fined. So I would think that a town this size, the property owner could be reasonably notified that we had to respond to your house because of X, Y, and Z. This is the ordinance in state. This is your first strike. 2 more strikes and you will be fined X amount of dollars. And that's how the one in Franklin goes. As for people being, held accountable, your properties that you own, if one of your tenants were to, let's say, walk down their stairs and the stair were to break and they were to fall and break their leg, you would be held accountable. You would be held somewhat responsible. Your homeowner's insurance would pick up the tab for that. So, there's not really a lot of splitting hairs. As a property owner, you do have a big liability and a big risk or whatever and responsibility as property owner to make sure things are going well. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to go into the house and make sure they're, feeding their kids, 4 servings of vegetables a day and make sure they're all brushing their teeth, but it's make sure that they are being accountable for their actions. So I would think that if you got a notice from the chief saying that your property on Pine Street they were going to because they had a party or there was a big domestic dispute and, kids were out in the yard and the husband was beating the hell out of the wife and everything else, you'd probably go over there and say, look, this is the ordinance, this is the rules. If it happens again, we're going to have a discussion or you're going to have to leave or something's going to be done. A good, responsible property owner would address that immediately versus waiting for the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, so on and so forth. So I really don't think it's that big of a deal to hold a property owner responsible for their property.
There is a bit of a difference though in the law, and in between what the two of you are saying is, if somebody falls and hurts themselves on your property because there's something faulty with the property, yes, there may be insurance coverage for that, and the landowner is responsible for the condition of their property. That's a very different thing than holding a landlord responsible for the volitional act of somebody that is residing in that property. So, and there's all sorts of different cases that talk about that as well. Trampolines are one of them where it's a volitional act, but the landlord knew the trampoline was there and the inherent risk. But
you knew the risk that was there at the time. But if you had tenants that you knew were malicious in nature and you put them in there.
I don't disagree with you, but the landlord themselves generally not responsible for the volitional act of another. It's not the landlord's negligence that caused that person to do something. That person chose to do something, whether it was to break into a house or abuse drugs or whatever. I don't know the scenario, but The landlord generally is not gonna be responsible for the volitional act of another. They
Correct.
would be responsible if they created an environment in which that person got injured, okay? That they would have that tort liability, whether it be in negligence or some other tort. But when you bring in, I'm not saying it, but when you bring in an intervening superseding cause, as the law calls it, and that is the intentional act of the person doing the bad thing, well, the landlord then isn't necessarily liable for that. They can't control the other person's mind or actions, right?
And I agree with you, and I agree with you 100%. Why should I be held liable for someone, a renter, breaking into someone else's house? I live in Florida. This is happening in Middleton, New Hampshire. I wasn't there. Why am I responsible? However, 3, 4, 5 times, 3, 4, 5 times of this happening.
I get it.
We're not, I mean, this is
Again, this
going
isn't
forward,
this isn't
too.
a one strike.
No,
I'm not asking to give passes out. 3 times the police come, 4 times. I'm talking about historically, issue after issue after issue.
I'm familiar with the property
Yeah.
myself, so
And,
I know what you're talking about.
All right.
Everybody is.
So, not to take away the rights of anybody, and nor do I wanna take the rights away from myself as a property owner who's going to rent possibly. Why am I gonna put myself in that position? Because I know possibly as a landowner, renter, I'm not gonna be put in that position, hopefully.
I mean, it's a tough situation for everybody involved, including the town. I mean, there's only so much the town can do.
Correct.
And then the town has got to fund enforcement of whatever it does, and fund
We fund it
challenges.
now. We fund it now by the police going there.
Well, yeah.
And if you could give a $10, citation, 50 or 100, we may never get that money back. It's gonna cost more money to litigate it.
It's like all the at-large things that we issue. I mean, with dogs running
But the
out.
message could be clear to the property owner or to anybody or the public that people do have rights as a property owner
And responsibilities.
and responsibilities.
Janet?
Pretty much the same argument that he's had here, and, finding the property owner or having them pay for the police when they come out, if it's just a nuisance call and there's no way to prosecute the situation, why is the landlord gonna be held responsible and pay for that police call? That's really pushing it.
It's not just a one-time police call, it would
But
be
if
because of
it's-
multiple.
But if you don't have anything that you can prosecute on this, why should the property owner have to pay for that police call?
Having
If
an
it was
ordinance
some-
would give you something to prosecute.
Right, if you had something to prosecute and it kept happening, I'd agree with that. But if it's just nuisance calls that they're coming out on, why should the landlord be held responsible? And when you take section 8 in, you don't have your own lease. You sign a lease with New Hampshire Housing,
You're gonna think
or
twice.
whoever, both sides, the landlord and the tenant. The landlord can lose his section 8 if they come in and do a yearly inspection. If the tenants have done damage to that house, or they haven't paid their rent, both sides can lose their contract.
That's the HAP contract, HEP
Right.
contract.
So the landlord doesn't have his own lease when he has section 8 housing. He has nothing to say about what they can and can't do. The state makes that lease.
The landlord can have their own lease, but if it differs with the HAP contract, the HAP
Right,
contract.
exactly.
And you'll think twice about renting to somebody if it's gonna be a high risk on your bank account.
But then again, you gotta be real careful when you say you don't want somebody renting in your apartment. You've gotta be real careful how you do it, because the state can then take you to court for discrimination.
See, my biggest concern, and I have either way, okay? I can see both sides of it.
Yes,
Alright? I can see John's, part of it, because as a responsible landowner, he does it the right way, and he's gonna be thrown into this category of basically having to do it, and there's nothing going on wrong. And the other part I have a problem with and I think we need to do something, honestly, I do. But are we doing this just because of one?
It's
one-
just.
I mean, this is just one situation. It's not a town-wide, as far as I know. I haven't heard it other than your situation, across from your house, it's one spot. See, we're creating all this ordinance for this one
Why not be
Individual
proactive though?
problem.
Why not be proactive with all of the properties,
That's what I'm saying.
with all of the properties that are for sale in this town, and with all of the opportunity for people to come in and be landlords? And what do they have to advertise? You've got a brand new school, elementary school, and then the older kids get to go to a junior high and high school that is far better than Farmington. So that's great advertisement to get renters in. And so why not prevent more of this happening? Hey, if this is the only house that this is happening in, well, that's, you know, we're SOL. And everybody else is doing great.
Don't say they're SOL, because, I mean, there is a need to take care
But
of it, I think.
with all of the properties that are for sale and the opportunity for this to continue to happen, why not jump on it and be proactive? And if you are a good property owner, like I look at John, is if he's a good property owner and he's a good landlord and he makes sure his tenants are doing the right thing and that they're responsible and they're not having the police called, which obviously his properties must be doing good because their neighbors aren't complaining, then he shouldn't have to worry about this ordinance. Just like I don't worry about the drunk driving laws because, well, I don't go and get loaded and then get in the car and drive down the road. So I think if you're a responsible property owner and you rent to responsible people, then it shouldn't be an issue for you.
And you know as we do, Joe, sitting on the planning board, that new RSA that just came up and said, you know, that you can go ahead and start renting your basement now.
The ADU law.
Yep, so, all a few people really gotta get is a sniff of that. And there'll be a lot of basements and other stuff rented out. And God forbid, we haven't had them yet, but.
That in itself, Roger, is discrimination and you know it.
What?
That in itself is discriminatory and you know it.
So what am I being I'm just saying, it's going to happen, and I hope.
When you have a basement apartment like that, 9 times out of 10, they're 1 bedroom, like mine, where you wouldn't possibly.
Why do you say I'm being
Where you couldn't possibly put a child into with just 1 bedroom.
Why do you
Okay,
say I'm just saying
that's fine.
it's gonna happen,
We're
the
getting
new
off
law's
track
gonna
here.
happen.
Alright, enough, we're getting off track.
Jeez.
Sorry.
Where's the ordinance at, and who's looking at it right now?
Well,
Lawyers.
it's in our office there, okay, and we have attorneys kinda looking at it.
We need to, before we really
Mr.
get out of
Franklin?
control in this discussion.
Is it
Nice to
online
see.
somewhere where we could read it?
No,
Yeah,
we don't have it
well,
online.
Franklin may have it on their website like that, whatever, it's just basically their terminology, the thing that we've really actually changed out of the whole thing is what says Franklin, whatever, to Middleton.
I would also
So-
recommend that you consider that Franklin is a city, not a town.
Well,
That may have been
right.
passed
Right,
a different way than before a
Right.
small board.
that's why we have attorneys look at it.
Yeah, they might
If
have
you're
gone
doing
through
it right, because if we do,
some other
proceed with
process
that.
to make it their ordinance.
right, so.
I mean, I guess I gotta say, no lease in this country is ironclad.
No. No such thing.
No lease is ironclad. People's Court, Judge Mathis and Judge Judy wouldn't be in business.
Neither was the circuit court.
Or you.
Where do you find time to watch these?
Yeah.
Oh, all day. I feel it's needed, it's just holding people accountable. Am I a policeman? No. Should the town be the policeman? No. But we do have a responsibility. So, looking at the ordinance again, that's my 2 cents.
Next item.
Really? We've been an hour on this one. Been almost 50 minutes. So, but it's important.
Yeah.
I get no problem spending time on important issues, so, obviously.
Trying to move this forward. Do you see this coming for a vote before us? Do you see it as a warrant article? I mean, I see no value in talking about this. These folks have been patient now for a year,
Year and a half.
more. You know, do something one way or another, either
Okay.
us or the town.
I think what we should do is, our next Board of Selectmen's meeting is the 12/4, okay? We will reconnect with our town attorneys, make sure that this is doable for the town of Middleton, okay? And the Board of Selectmen make the decision on the ordinances, so we can have it for a vote by then.
Have the ordinance written one way or another and
Yeah,
take
we'll
it up
vote
without
on
a
it.
vote?
Joe, that has to have a public hearing first.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does. Ordinances have to have public hearings.
This can be considered one.
Yes.
Huh?
A selectman meeting can be considered the same thing. We've been down this road
Yeah.
many
We
times.
can do it for, okay, as a public notice, we'll put that for the 12/4, like that, public notice on a new ordinance, whatever, and then the meeting, we can vote on it.
Get the thing drafted,
A selectman meeting.
whatever way we want.
Well, no, they have to set the,
One way or the other.
public hearing.
Okay, so I figure about
Hear
This
it.
folks away
December
one way or
4th,
another.
we'll have this put to bed, one way or the other, okay?
Yeah.
Good deal. Okay, moving on, next big topic. Junkyard update for Tufts Garage Junkyard.
You should get her bill.
Wait, look at me. I just went to the minutes, believe it or not.
You should
This
get her
was
bill,
tabled
not
from
mine.
last month because John wasn't here.
Right,
And you said
She
that
has
you
to make up
would,
though.
they had an extension to clean up the property, but it's time to enforce the cleanup.
right.
The original letter stated if it was not cleaned up, then there would be a daily fine. And then
No.
you said you'd discuss it more when
You,
John returned.
yourself, myself, and John Momo went down there, and for the most part, most of the vehicles are out of there. The biggest thing we saw was thousands and thousands and thousands of tires.
How far back did you walk?
We walked back to the pond,
Oh, you did?
way out by the pond. I went up in the woods around the pond,
Oh, no, I-
trying to find the hidden stuff.
Oh, I didn't know if there was still any boats there.
Still a number of cars out
Were you
there,
wearing glaze orange? Did you have a rifle?
but there was a lot of tires.
Oh, no, I know there's a lot of tires.
Careful.
Above the ground, and
There's either one or two dumpsters that they're filling up with metal to haul out. We were told that there have been other dumpsters already filled
they
up,
have that.
hauled out. I don't see anything going on with the tires other than, I'd like to say they're all in one place, but you walk around, you can still see
Oh, I know
tires
they are.
everywhere.
I'm very familiar with it, yeah.
And our conversation at the end with Keith was not very positive as well about that being taken care of at all.
You know, I did not get the feeling that it was gonna be addressed. I don't know enough about tires, but at one point, I thought there was a market for them. Either they will,
That's right.
if they don't buy them from you, they'll at least take them for free.
In 1988, we bought our property. As you probably remember us telling you about, it was just loaded with junk and stuff that had been dumped there for 100 years. It included 800 tires. At that time, this was well, 20 years ago. At that time, Rochester, as a lot of other towns, actively sent out advertisement to collect tires. Because they had a contract, this big company in New York had a contract with a lot of these towns to take those tires. So lucky us, we brought them to Rochester dump. At that time there was no landfill, the dump. And they stacked them up and they had a huge pile there that other people have been giving tires to. Well, we were able to get rid of those 800 tires. However, we soon learned later that year or the year after, the company went under. And all of a sudden, these towns in their dump, in their town dumps, had all these tires. The one in Rochester, it was about 5 years later, caught fire
Mysteriously.
and then burned for God knows how long.
Rochester?
Madberry.
Madberry Meadows.
Bunch of
Yeah, I
places.
remember Madberry Meadows. That was like 3 months
Yeah,
before.
Right, John?
What's, any idea what the market is for tires?
The same thing we go through every year when you have your recycling down here. The prices go from $3 and up. It all depends on the size. You start
we
getting the
pay
big
to
tires.
get rid of it.
We do.
Yep.
Yep. Yep.
You have to pay to get rid of it?
Yeah.
And that's through NRRA, which is recycling for municipalities, and that's where you get your best rate is through them.
So basically, it's like Waste Management's saying like that. I mean, when we do the recycling, the price for recycling, there's no market in it any longer, so they're not really, no, it's not a big moneymaker. That's why we had it and we got rid of it, because it's costing us, as a town, so much money, okay? Same thing with tires. At one point, they're gonna resurface roads and all this other stuff, whatever, and that they're grinding them up and all
Yeah,
this other
athletic
stuff.
tracks.
Playgrounds, whatever,
Yeah, yeah.
that sort of thing. But the
If you
market's
shouldn't
gone out of
do
it. So basically, we pay to get rid of them.
If you
And-
shouldn't Indonesia, they make shoes out of
So,
flip-flops.
And that's our price, $3 per tire,
Right.
based on the
So-
municipality.
right, and what we charge you, as the taxpayer, is what we have to pay to get rid of those, so we're not making money on it, but that's just the cost of getting rid of them. So
Yeah.
the bigger the tire, the more it costs you. So,
Laura or anybody else remembers, what was the original deadline to get the junkyard cleaned up before fines started
end of October.
of this year, 2017? The end of October or
Yeah.
October?
The beginning of October.
So
So we're
they're,
already in the
Almost
2
in.
months beyond that.
right, so I think at this point, based on the conversation, what we saw,
Right,
we should probably start enforcing it,
yeah.
effective December 1st.
Because my comment would be is for all the junk that's gone out of there, they've gotten paid for that, so
Yeah, 'cause that's all
they can
scrap
turn
metal.
around and pay to have the tires removed.
And call it a day.
So,
That's what I
I'll bet
agree,
there's-
that's what I think should happen, but.
Roxanne, I'll bet there's 1,000 tires in there.
Oh, there's probably more than that,
Yeah,
John,
that's just what we could say.
yeah.
that's right.
So basically,
fine.
so are we in agreement that's effective December 1st, that we're gonna just start implementing the fine process for tough garage, junkyard, whatever?
So can I ask the question, who's that letter gonna go to? The landowners?
All landowners,
You'll be getting a letter, Steve.
Who's writing the letter?
we probably should have our attorneys take care of it.
Okay.
I don't want, we don't want the verbiage to be wrong.
When did we first talk to them, say you're gonna get it cleaned up?
It's past spring, isn't it? And they applied
So
for the
really,
junkyard permit.
more than,
You gotta figure 2 months before October, because you gave them 2 months.
Oh, no,
I thought it went back
the
before
extension
the-
was to October, I think it was through the end of August, and then you gave them a 2-month extension.
Yeah, we started the ones around April at this point.
right, so it's really hasn't been 2 months when they've been trying to get rid of the tires. We've been talking about this now for
It's
6
April.
months.
easily
Mhm.
6 months,
Yeah.
okay? So, I think it's time.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we can reach out to, make sure it's drafted the proper way. Wow. Anything else on the old business? And I'm thinking you guys are here from last week,
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago? Same thing.
I
Only
knew
different. Okay, so, we said we'd reach out to our town's attorneys, and Daniel Marr, who was, I forget the name of the firm he's with, Hamlet and Carrigan, out of, you may even know him. Okay.
National.
Yeah, they're out of Nashua. Okay, his response, we put this out to him, and he says, I believe the town is within its rights to deny this request for an exemption under RSA 231:191 V under these circumstances. If they use trucks later to build golf resort, and the town knew the purpose of the 2015 purchase to build the golf resort, I believe the owner has a good argument for the exemption for that limited purpose, but not to operate a construction company out of the property, to operate a construction company out of a property it knew was subject to the posted weight limit on the road. If the land had been used by the predecessor with similar trucks, and that was not enforced, yet now the town decides to enforce that limit, that would be a concern as well. And we don't know of any other people who ever had a construction site off a Ridge Road that we know to date. So,
Right, and I guess the part of the presentation we made 2 weeks ago was that the road wasn't posted until this year.
but the ordinance has always been in existence since 1998.
I understand that, but
Before that,
the
like,
statute says when the road was posted.
it was posted in 93 or 4. The original ordinance is still to date. We got it. It was back in, it was before I got here in 96, it was 93, 94.
When was it unposted, I guess is the question.
And it was never unposted on the ordinance. The ordinance always stood in place.
When was the road physically
So
unposted?
basically, was there a sign up to post it, and then the sign got removed?
There've been several signs out there to post it.
Can I ask-
One of the ones that was there was a no through trucking sign, which was one of the last signs that was put out there. Then the 10-ton signs are back out there now.
I think the point that we're making is that either the road was unposted, physically the signs were taken down, the posting was changed, like Rick said, no through trucking. I know that there were meetings with Mr. Keegan and Mr. Terrio with regard to limitations of use on the road, all of which kind of exemplify the fact that while the ordinance may have been the same all the way through, and I know because on behalf of Mr. Terrio, I requested a copy of the ordinance from the town. They sent me the ordinance that predated the 1998 ordinance, which said that the road wasn't posted. Then later I received the second page again that said the road was posted as of 1998.
I like to see the sign that says the road wasn't posted. I like to see that ordinance.
I got it in an email. So
Really.
it was seasonally posted. It was subject to a seasonal posting only.
It was
not
posted all year round.
Rick, I'm not arguing with you. I'm just telling you what I received from the town when I requested on behalf.
I was there when that was sent. I don't know where you got an email that said that road was not posted when he bought that property. I don't know where you got
Okay.
that from.
Physically, the road was not posted with a sign when he purchased the property. After purchasing the property, that sign was put up this year that says that there's a limit. And
Incorrect.
when was the sign put up? I'm assuming you
That
put it up.
sign, the 10-ton sign was put up, when I got here in '96, there was a sign out there that said 60% illegal load. That confused everybody, that cops had to get a calculator out, didn't have a scale. The state of New Hampshire, over to Concord, sent us down the information, the road ended up being posted. It was a 10-ton red list bridge on that road. That's why it was originally posted.
Is this property before or after the bridge?
His property before the bridge.
Okay, so then
But the whole road was, when we put the bridge in, after the 10, when it was still limited 10-ton, even after the bridge was in, under the residents, that all of a sudden they was wondering, the road's not gonna be posted 10-ton, we have all this local traffic, all this truck traffic down through there, which they were right. And now in 2017, like I mentioned at the original meeting back about 2.5 months ago when this all started, the GPS system is what's got us. We got trucks coming from 16 to 11 and from 11 to 16 across the dirt road, come straight across this road, and the road isn't, not only is it not built for it, it's not safe for tractor trailers or big trucks on that road to run steadily down through there. You go down on them corners down by New Portsmouth Road, you meet a tractor trailer or a triaxle on that corner. If you stay in your lane, times that truck comes around, you've got to get out of your lane, or you're going to get run into.
And-
I've seen it happen to me at 6 o'clock in the morning more than once.
Okay, and I believe that's why the town made the restriction specifically for Mr. Terrell's property.
No.
I let you talk. Can you let me finish, please?
Go ahead, but the wrong thing you got going is that it was posted for 10-ton when he bought the property. It wasn't a...
You just said the sign went up in 2017. You just said the sign went up for 10-ton in 2017. Did you not just say
The
that?
sign, we just changed it back from the no-through trucking sign that was put out there in 2017, back to 10-ton, because the agreement that was made that we'd let no-through trucking, they'd go one way. They're going both directions. So the board has decided to go back to the original ordinance, which was never changed on paper,
Okay,
which the sign for 10-ton was there when Chuck bought that property.
okay. And I'm not here to testify necessarily, but I was a person who drove around in a cruiser in this town enforcing the laws of this town. And I worked here for 6 years, and the road
Nobody ever
wasn't
stopped anybody.
the road wasn't posted when I worked here.
Okay.
Okay? And you're telling me that the sign went back up this year.
The sign was out there up until we changed it to the no-through trucking signs.
Okay.
I got a whole pile of them right over there at the shop now.
Regardless, the statute permits for the town to grant an exemption to somebody who owns property on the road, and if the town doesn't want to do that, that's fine. I mean, obviously, we'll have the record of the posting or lack of posting or changing the posting. We'll have the record for that. We can litigate if we have to. I just think it's ridiculous to litigate the denial of an exemption when you have the right to give it to them. And in this particular case, regardless of whether Rick is basing his information on science or belief, if the town's driving loaded trucks back and forth over the road, and Mr. Terrio is asking for an exemption to drive unloaded trucks back and forth over the same portion of the road, I don't understand how the town wins that one in court, but okay, I get paid to go to court, so whatever, it doesn't matter to me, but might matter to Mr. Terrio a little bit, but you guys have the ability under the ordinance to grant the exemption, under the statute. and the ordinance to grant the exemption, that's why that's built in there, but it's the town's determination of what they wanna do. I guess that's up to you.
You had a comment?
Me? I will comment that. Okay, I guess my question would be is if, no, I don't have a comment, never mind. Nope, I need to talk to Steve about it. Because, yeah, never mind. Nope, I'm not gonna have a comment.
Any comment from you guys? So what are we gonna do? We need to add it is? Have it go to court?
You gotta grant it or deny it. Those I guess the options with the request.
I feel this should be the same.
It's already been denied, hasn't it?
Well, we can exempt it tonight if we want to.
But it, last
Right
meeting
now, we
was
said-
on here, it was,
Right, we said we put it off to talk to the
Oh,
attorney,
okay.
and this is their response.
okay.
So, I guess it's just a question now of what was posted and when, it's like that, so. When the signs went up at what date and time and whatever. So, are you denying or?
I'm denying.
Can I just ask one question?
Sure.
Are you just inquiring that the physical sign wasn't up there?
That's what it means by being posted.
Physical sign being posted on the road.
That's what
the term is the
One
law.
at a time, we can't hear everybody, so.
So the statute is based on when the road was posted, not when the ordinance was passed. The black and white letters of the statute say, if the use was existing prior to the road being posted, and it was posted this year. Now, granted, I'm not denying that it may have been posted
In the past?
any number of different ways. Bridge, no through trucking, seasonal weight limits, whatever. But your ordinance, your modern ordinance, as far as I understand it, was enacted this year, and thereafter the road was posted this year to enact the current, all the time weight limit, rather than any seasonal weight limit. That's my understanding based on what's been sent to me from the town. So, Mr. Terrio's use predates that happening. That's why the ordinance, not only if it predates, but if the application of the ordinance to his use, which is permitted, and we went back and forth about 3 trucks, 1 more. If the application of the ordinance to his particular use results in an unnecessary hardship, not an undue hardship, just an unnecessary hardship, or practical difficulty, you have the right to give him the exemption. In fact, the statute says you shall, upon showing of practical difficulty or undue or unnecessary hardship, the town shall issue him an exemption. Not might if they want to, it's shall. So I didn't write the statute, the legislature did, so that's what the court's gonna interpret if we have to go to court over it. I mean, again, as you guys can see, I'm not an adversarial person. If we have a disagreement, okay, fine. The person in the black robe decides that, but I mean, I don't see why you would waste the money on that if the ordinance, the statute's pretty clear, but again, that's up to you.
So, okay, so besides, alright, so is that, so we're just limited to saying it's denied or granted, whereas I know the comment came up about him bonding the road from where the state or where the town pit is that what they call it, they're calling it the town pit? I don't know.
Potential new, like,
Yeah, that, because right now, we haul in and out of there with the town's trucks and stuff, right? So the road, we know the road can sustain that or whatever. So would it be so adversible to say he bonds from there? Because we know the trucks are gonna go into that town maintained area from that to his driveway? Is that an illegal?
that is a
My
part of the process, yes.
No, and we discussed that, at the last meeting we appeared at.
I mean, versus saying denied versus accepted, to say, is this a plausible thing versus to have the town have to go to court and we have to pay? I don't know, I'm just saying. cause,
We have no choice but to go down the road. If we had a choice, and we didn't, we wouldn't, but we have no choice. I mean, what other choices do we have? That's why, if you read the ordinance all the way to the bottom, that's where we're exempted in there. Like the fire truck, somebody made a comment, if you have a fire truck can't go down there. Santa Claus can't ride on a fire truck down there because it's overweight. I mean, that's all stuff that's come up. That's why you read the whole thing, there's certain things that are exempted, like the rubbish truck, the school buses, the highway trucks, the fire trucks. There is exemptions in there, and that's what's put in there, and that's the only reason we go down there, is we have to. If we had the choice, we wouldn't.
Bonding's an interesting idea, except there's been pretty heavy evidence that trucks go both ways. So we're talking about bonding all the way down to Route 153,
No, just to his property.
but the trucks go both ways.
I don't think they have for.
But Chuck, they have been.
Well, no, not since.
Not for about 2 weeks.
Yeah, whatever
Since
it's
you
been.
slow down your business, they haven't, no.
I guess in the past, we've been told the trucks only go one way, and we see evidence that they go both
I
ways.
told them only go one way. I think the chief has stopped enough of them that they're only going one way now.
And we could enter into some sort of a
They're truck drivers.
consent decree, though, that would require Mr. Terrio to provide notice to all of his truck drivers that they're only to use this portion of Ridge Road. I mean, you guys can put whatever conditions on it you want, if you were to approve the exemption. Granted, if the conditions were such that they were just as bad as, you know, having the ordinance enforced against Mr. Terrio, well, then we just go to court and have the judge make a decision as to what the permitted use was and what the conditions were if we thought it was gonna be more advantageous, but it just seems to me kind of, I don't know, a waste of resources to litigate a matter that can be resolved. I don't, again, it doesn't matter to me, that's what I do for a living, so it doesn't, I'm not upset or anything, but it just seems kind of foolish to kind of spend those resources when you guys obviously have other things that you need to spend the taxpayers' money on. I mean, I don't know, that's just, I guess, my opinion.
So, a bonding issue.
I believe we've all bonded here tonight, haven't we?
Second. No kumbaya. Second.
yeah.
You guys, what? What?
I'm still not satisfied with the thoughts of trucks going the other way. All the bonding in the world, even if you bond it all the way to 153, is not gonna take away those curves down by New Portsmouth Road and further sections along there where it is, in my opinion, way too dangerous to have big trucks going.
I agree. I'm
So-
totally in agreement with you.
Bonding sounds good, but how do you keep them out of there?
Well,
Because
we as selectmen before, whenever we had logging trucks go in there, the first thing we did is have them bought.
And you put up no through trucking signs, and you put up,
We've had all the no-through trucking sites, but once they bonded, Rick knew that these were bonded, he could check the roads. Matter of fact, I think one of the trucks
You had
bumped up.
one, you had one bond in this town, and that was in 1997. And that was on New Portsmouth Road. You've never had another logging company in this town put a bond up ever, since I've been here.
But didn't he bung the road up?
He
We had to
did.
fix it?
Yeah, and you only had a bond for 30,000, it cost you almost 180 to fix it. So,
So you make a realistic bump.
now it was New Portsmouth Road, the whole hill got wiped out, one whole shoulder got wiped out by a logging truck.
You had just redone that, didn't you?
No, we didn't, but they put new drainage in and the culverts got swished down in there too, because there was some serious, well, the DOT ended up nailing most of them trucks coming out, they were overloaded anyway, but that's another whole story. That's why New Portsmouth was
I'm not trying
posted
to
separate.
prolong your
no,
issue.
no, and I was about to say the
Okay.
same thing. If the decision is to deny it or
I
you
think
know,
what we should
reconvene
do is
later,
table it.
yeah,
I think the three of us need to get together and talk a little bit more about what we wanna do.
I don't
Okay.
disagree with that.
So, and I think we should come up with that fairly quickly,
Okay.
alright? So, I want three of us, and again, talk to our attorney. This guy's going ching, 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 ching. Oh.
So do you guys?
And we went from a $200 lawyer to a $300 lawyer, figures, right?
If I could just make a comment on that, you
yeah.
have one of the best attorneys in the state when it comes to municipal work, but
Who's that?
Mitchell Municipal,
Yeah.
they're regarded as some of the best in the state, so.
Okay,
White law,
that's okay.
No.
Mitchell and Bates.
I understand that you don't use them anymore, but,
Well, we still use them,
oh, you do?
For simple stuff.
just not as much as we used to. So, For necessary
Big
reasons.
words.
all right, so, if you don't mind, we can table this just, maybe one more week, and we'll.
It's up to you guys,
So
not
just
me.
let me know when we should come back again,
Yes.
not next week or whatever.
Uh,
When
first-
the
no.
couple,
We got a couple more meetings between now and the holiday season, so,
so you wanna wait till after the holiday season?
no,
Okay,
no,
so I'm just trying to.
take
give
care
you
of it
time.
beforehand. Don't wanna make it wait any longer than it already has, okay? So, all right, you're here for a reason on the new business. No, you're just listening?
Just listening.
Okay.
He's an innocent bystander.
Welcome.
Wow.
It's a good night.
Yeah, it'd be a good night. I'm usually home by now. No, not really.
Will you notify us when to come back?
Yes, we will. Yeah, we will. We'll reach out and give you a week now. Let you know. Day, 24 hours.
Thanks.
Just a conceptual question. If your trucks are bonded and damage is done on the road, how is it determined that it's your truck and not your truck and not your truck that did the damage? How can anyone, I don't care if it's a state trooper, a road expert, how does anyone determine that a particular truck did the damage? So we had the same question when we were working on this in front of the elementary school.
You-
Okay?
I think the answer is you really can't, but the road would still be posted, except this company would have, because they're a lender on the road, would have an exemption. So if the posting ordinance is working, then the only trucks going down the road are the town and anyone with an exemption, right? Obviously, people are gonna go down the road, disobey the sign, and, you know, the police will get involved. But you can probably mathematically calculate, well, the town's not going past the pit, so if it happened after the pit, it's gotta be their trucks, because, except for maybe occasionally, somebody breaks the law and goes down the road, right? But the town's not gonna do that, unless the town's trucking from the pit down Ridge Road to, Newport Smith or Tufts or whatever else, which that's a different issue altogether.
I'm just concerned about proving it,
It's hard
if
to
it comes to that.
Yeah,
Cause
yeah.
I mean, he,
It would have to be regular and consistent use by a heavy truck to do significant damage. Therefore, an occasional other overloaded truck going down and not likely to have caused the damage that would incur the enforcement of the bond issue.
Unless they went off the road, damaged and sold, the police responded, that truck resulted in damage, then you would find that
That's
person.
significant.
If it's sitting there,
Yeah. it's
that type of
damage.
damage, the truck would be stuck there.
On paper, it sounds easy. Enforcing it is something else, okay? As a lawyer, in court, I could see you saying, but Your Honor, other trucks have illegally gone down that road. How do you know that's my client's truck and not that truck? Is there evidence of
And you
tire
would use
prints?
And yes, I would.
Yeah.
Yes, I would, but,
Start over.
Where are we?
no, but the point is, mathematically speaking, if it came to that, you're right, I would do that, but generally speaking, how something like that's going to work is if the town's trucking however many loads a year over, you know, from Kings Highway to the pit, and Mr. Terrio's putting trucks over the same area plus the area between the pit and his driveway, so many loads a year, so many trucks a year, whatever you wanna call it, so many pass and repass.
right, between his 6 to 8 trucks every day versus the highway's 4 trucks.
But there's a mathematical equation to figure out what participation the bond does in the damage versus what doesn't, unless there's a specific incident of damage, and like Chuck said, the truck is sitting there because it got stuck, you know, I mean, that's a little bit different.
Who monitors trucks going through?
No one ever said governing was easy, I'm not the one that told you guys to be on the board, but I mean, that's running a town, you know, I mean, it is what it is, those are the jobs you guys,
So then you do,
Got suckered in, I
so
mean,
then you
chose,
do feel
but,
for
you
us that we need to protect the roads.
of course you do, yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do, but again, this is obviously is not a unique situation. in the town of Middleton or anywhere else in New Hampshire, there's legislation at the state level on how to deal with this. You would assume that happens because this has happened quite a few times. You know, I mean, it is what it is. When a town replaces a road and they replace it differently than it was built originally, they usually upgrade those surfaces, what have you. I'm sure Rick can tell you all about it. And people had pre-existing uses on the road, which probably was the reason why the road needed to be upgraded and repaired, because they destroyed it, right? So, but that's why there's a statute on point regarding it and giving you guys the ability to do that. And again, it allows you to put conditions, like Mrs. Keegan said. I mean, it allows you to put conditions on that. They can be reasonable, otherwise you're looking at litigation anyway. But I mean, that's what the statute's designed for.
Well, that's what I'm saying, I mean, monitoring it, I mean, you can't ask a police to sit out there 24/7. You can't ask the police to sit on a house 24/7, you know, for drug activity. It's our job to protect the roads, we all know that. And, you know, to get a speeding ticket and appeal it and tell the judge, well, there wasn't a speed limit posted right next to me, so I shouldn't have to pay a $50 fine for going 40 and a 35. You know, I don't feel that I need to exempt, and I'll make it public, I feel I don't need to exempt something just because there wasn't a sign there for a month or 2 weeks or whatever it is. You know, if there could be some type of, you know, an agreement or something, but my main job, or I believe our main job, is to protect the roads, whether it's highway or private.
From damage,
From damage,
weight put on the road,
correct?
if we wanna go down that path, on how much weight we're putting on the road compared to the town trucks, or the garbage truck, or the school bus, how much weight per square foot, if you really wanna protect the road, do you really truly wanna protect the road? Are you really focusing on protecting the road? Cause I can bring in all the data that shows that my truck with the bigger tires puts less than your pickup with your trailer behind it puts on that road. If you want me to bring in the data, I can lay that all out for you next time, if you guys will even listen to it. The University of Texas did the data for the federal DOT that shows that we put less weight on that road than the trucks do, than your truck towing a trailer does behind it. Because our pounds per square foot, just like walking on snow with snowshoes, if you send your wife out without the snowshoes, you're gonna make it to the front door. She's not. Our trucks, and Jimmy's truck, puts a lot less pounds per square foot on that road than almost everything else that goes on that road. If you really, really cared about the roads, we'll bring that information in for you, because it will be in court. It will be.
That's like why cement trucks have those humongously wide tires.
I mean, we can bring all that stuff in if you truly want to save the roads, if that's what you're really concerned about with that.
That's my
You're
number
doing
one
two
concern.
things, like John said, you're not gonna take the corners out of the road.
No, we're not going that
You're
way.
doing it for two reasons. Well, that's what we was told, Chuck.
And if we're talking about having some sort of an agreement, an enforceable
The
agreement.
problem is like that, you have all the agreements in your world, we were told that before, it wasn't gonna happen, it's happening. That's the problem, you can have all the
There you
agreements, it's just like having, we talked earlier about, the other stuff like that, any kind of agreement you want. Is 100% 100% accurate and enforceable? Probably not.
No, I agree, there shouldn't be any trucks going down there. I mean, they
Then why are
shouldn't
they,
be going.
Chuck? You told us they weren't going to be.
They weren't
They
supposed
were.
to be.
They weren't supposed to
I
be.
mean, I'm not there
No,
during the
but
day, so.
you're the owner, you're the
Oh, I
boss.
told them not to go that way. And then the chief stopped a couple of them, they stopped going that way.
You know, they shouldn't have been in the position to be stopped in the first place.
Well, they should, if they're not listening to me or anybody else, they should get the fines
And that's why
directly.
we have ordinance such as the homeowners holding
There you
people
go.
accountable.
Right,
Now we're on that
And
ordinance.
that's why,
I agree.
and that's why I've only been on the board for a couple months now, or 6 months. Yes, it's our job to protect roads.
Yep.
Last thing I wanna do, and this junkyard, anything else, is put someone out of business.
Same here.
You
Not our
have,
intent.
you have a business, is it registered, is it legal, this, how many trucks? My job's not to say you can't drive on a public road. However, this type of business, the roads can't handle it. That's the reason why the ordinance
Well,
is
so
there.
you're going down that road. I can bring the data that shows you that we put less weight than your school buses, than the trash trucks, than everything else. So if you're really worried about the road, are we talking about the curves and not going that way, or are we talking about the weight of the road?
Read the RSA and
Which-
the ordinance. It
Which I read
explains
it many
both.
times, Rick, you probably couldn't even read it from one end to the other, because you don't understand it. The weight on the
Excuse me.
road is not,
Wait a minute,
if
wait a
that's the
minute.
issue.
Chucky, there's no excuse for that comment.
Okay.
Yes, there is.
No, there isn't. You don't insult somebody.
Whoa. Well, I'm running the meeting, not you guys.
I think probably
If you want to deny it, then we'll just go to court, because we will beat it.
Stop. I think that, to your point in trying to protect the road itself, if you have an ordinance and a posting and people are, whether it's trucks drivers or whoever else, you know, following it or not to whatever degree, yeah, that's a strain on the police department to go and deal with those people all the time. I think the best way to protect the road from a known permitted use, subject to the permitted exemption, is to have an agreement, like you said, that has something to it. If you don't follow the agreement, then you lose the exemption, therefore you're subject to getting a ticket if you go down it. You pay a fine, you do something. But if you have an agreement, a legally binding document, which obviously is going to be public record for anyone to see under 91A, that shows what the agreement is for that exemption, then you're ensuring at least this person, this company who you know is using the road in this manner, you know you have some enforceable agreement with them, and that allows you to protect that road, as opposed to, well, did the chief happen or one of the officers happen to be in the right area at the right time when the wrong truck was in the wrong spot. I mean, I think it gives you more control. Obviously, I'm advocating that he gets the exemption so that he can make a controlled, limited use of the road rather than an uncontrolled, non-limited use of the road subject to do I get caught. I just think it's better for everybody, I think it's better for the town, I certainly think it's better for his business and him.
But also, in the past, it was used for the golf and the application permit that he applied for. This is something totally different, am I right?
The planning board limited the use of the road for that project, right? The planning board
Right.
put a limit on the use of the road that I believe at the time the planning board didn't believe existed otherwise on the road. Because if it existed otherwise, if there was a weight limit, then what the planning board would have had to have done was say, we'll suspend the weight limit for such a period of time so that you can bring the trucks in and do the work. They didn't do that. They said, your trucks can only go down to the property and back via Ridge Road, accessing from Kings Highway, and not over the rest of the road. They limited the use of the road. They didn't open the use of the road that was supposedly posted at the time.
But that intended use was only for the building of the golf course only.
That may be, but my point is that at the time he bought the property, there wasn't a sign out where it is now saying the road's posted.
No, but was it granted based on the project of the golf course?
We're going round and round.
That use, the planning board limited was because they I don't wanna say that the board assumed, but I'm assuming that the board understood that with this development, there's going to be an increase in truck traffic because of the construction, the maintenance of the facility, the deliveries to the facility, and therefore they said, okay, Ridge Road has so much truck traffic over a certain number of pounds already, which they didn't say we have to open it up to that. They said, this is gonna be even more use, we wanna restrict it so they don't go past the bridge. So they put a limit on that for that purpose because of the intended increase in truck traffic, not to open it up because it was prohibited to begin with. I'm telling you at the time, it wasn't prohibited based on a posting. It might have been in an ordinance, but there was no posting on the road. I've never,
A sign.
there was no sign posted. It was not posted on the road the way that they post it seasonally. So,
Well, we'll talk about it and we'll get back.
thank you. I
No,
appreciate
thank
it.
you.
No, thank you.
So,
Next. There's
Next.
nothing, right? We're done.
okay. If nothing else under old business, we can move into new business. Is that you, Janet? You want new business?
Oh,
Or old
Public
business?
participation, whatever.
Oh, well, that comes in after new business. We'll have that.
Okay.
Is there any new business? Okay, public participation, Janet, go ahead.
I came here tonight because John made a comment at the budget committee meeting last week that I wanted clarification on regarding the cell towers. In fact, I put a call in for Roger, but he didn't call me back. with, I forget the name of which phone company you were dealing with, that wants to come in and build its own tower and put its own, I know you're shaking your head, Roger, but this is why.
I'll
No,
explain
no,
it
wait
to
a
you.
minute, this is what he said the other night. That they wanna build their own tower, put their antenna on it, and there was a question as to whether, one, we could, other companies could put their antennas on, and two, that we were not gonna collect rent from them? Please, explain that more thoroughly.
I'll explain it to you. There's a gentleman in the state, which we've all discussed out before with, is Mr. Stevens, who Jeff gave a copy of what he discussed with us. Blue Horizon is our cell tower company.
Right,
Blue Sky, excuse me.
which you have a signed contract with, right?
Right.
Yes.
We are still basically obligated to them. If AT&T, which I listened to the governor this weekend on Channel 9, on this FirstNet program.
Yeah.
He is still on the fence on whether he's going to go with AT&T or this other company, or he's gonna opt out of it altogether.
Okay.
Anything he does not stop us from collecting the money on our tower, on the tower down there, where we put them. Mr. Stevens says we are ahead of the ballgame. No other thing in the state is here.
Okay.
So we gave him a copy of what we sent to all these other things we gave, and he said that was terrific. So he presented that to the governor, you know, because that's a great thing to have.
Right.
So he is working with me and my partner here, which I can't, my name, but anyways.
It's okay, Joanne, I know who you are.
Jeez. Senior moment.
I was gonna say senior moment.
Anyways, so anything that's happening there, like I'm gonna call him tomorrow and say, hey, geez, I saw the governor on TV. I
What's going
understand
on?
he's still waiting to make his decision, he's not sure.
Yeah.
And give him a heads up, because him and I are dealing together.
Right.
What he's gonna do is, whenever it happens, he's gonna send a representative of AT&T or that other company or whoever they're gonna be using at the time out to see us. So we're gonna be one of the first ones.
Okay.
What we're doing right now, which I talked to Joanne today, is we're gonna call Blue Sky.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna call Blue Sky tomorrow and say, it would behoove you to come out here and put your towers up.
Yeah.
Because what it says on a thing here is that the state will be more because they're gonna have to put up more towers than what they figure.
Right.
So that it would be more for the state to come out and put their stuff on our towers, okay?
Right.
But also, the way the governor said, it would also help in communications in the town for cell phones. So that would give these cell phone companies an opportunity to come in and do the same thing, which this is what the tower companies are looking for, trying to get the cell phone companies. Yeah. So we're killing two birds with one stone, but go ahead, dear.
Okay. I understand your question is whether we would get revenue from the
Right.
tower?
Yeah, we still
Okay.
will.
The town owns the land.
Right.
Therefore, anybody putting their tower on that property would be paying some fees for the use of the property.
Right.
Whether the state goes with AT&T with the
With that program,
FirstNet, if they go with
I
FirstNet,
saw that, so.
they're going to have to put up additional towers. They're going to pay for the tower one way, someone is going to pay for putting the tower up, and the optimum location for one of those towers would be the high ground that Middleton owns. So there is every reasonable assumption that a tower will go up on the town property. Whether it's FirstNet and AT&T, or with the state going to another program, whoever puts the tower up is gonna put it on our land.
Right, but we're gonna be getting revenue.
Yes.
And that was my concern
Okay, now
because.
whether or not it's FirstNet or some other company, if the town, I'm sure, is going to be monitoring this very closely as to what equipment goes on the tower, the tower would be a source of revenue in itself.
Right.
Various bits of equipment going on the tower would mean revenue for whoever owns the tower itself. That additional revenue going to the tower company could be translated as an increase in revenue for the town as well.
Yes.
Because weren't with other equipment or antennas going on that tower, I know that the revenue would be going to the tower company, but weren't we supposed to get a percentage of it anyway?
You get $5,000
That's-
for them to put the tower up.
That's if we
Per
go
month.
with Blue
Okay.
Sky. If Blue Sky is not willing to make some kind of, take some kind of
Commitment.
appropriate action and get something going, and the state wants to move a little faster, or some other program moving faster, there may be some options for us to get out of the contract with Blue Sky, or get whoever is interested in putting the tower up with working with Blue Sky. One way or the other, the optimum assumption then
Right,
is
well-
that the tower will go up and the town will get
Well, that's what
revenue.
concerned me the other night when John said that, because when we voted on this back in 2015,
When John said what?
when
Which-
John
which
said
John?
we weren't gonna get rent,
Which John?
Larry, yes,
No, let me rephrase that. I said my concern as a member of the Board of Selectmen, my concern would be to make sure of that we do get rent.
oh, then I misunderstood, that's why I came tonight for better clarification, because when we approved this ordinance back in 2015, the clear indication was that we would be getting revenue from this, and that revenue was going to be put into the capital reserve fund for the highway department.
Well, let's put it this way, if we own the property and someone else is going to use it.
We're gonna collect rent on it, right,
That's a reasonable
And
assumption.
whoever Mr. Stevens
yep,
sends out to me
yep,
and Joanne, we're gonna tell them, we got contracts signed
Okay.
with Blue Sky.
okay.
We know, that's why I'm gonna call Blue Sky and say, hey, put your tower up. But, you know, you're not, you don't,
Yeah,
you know?
Do they not pay rent to you until they put the
Right.
until the
no,
tower
they
up?
don't pay rent
That's
to the
it. Put your
tower.
tower up,
Okay.
once the thing starts
So
happening.
the contract with Blue Sky was, they put the tower up, basically, we said we want police, fire, school,
Right.
municipal stuff on the tower, no, it's on our property, that's like free of charge to the town, okay? And they can rent the rest of the tower to how many cell coverages they
That
want,
they
we don't
want,
care. But the initial part of it was, they pay us X amount, and as they bring on these different, like, if they start with, say, Sprint, and all of a sudden they put Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, then we would get a little bit of that money
Percentage.
as well, on
Piece of it.
top of the
Right.
basic rent,
They
okay?
kick you a piece of
That's
what
not
they have to
changed.
pay.
The
Okay.
first, the first
That's
one,
what
we
I wanted
don't
to be
get
sure
nothing.
of.
But do they have a right of? They own the rights. You can't sell the right to another company to put the tower there. They own that right
They-
under the
as
contract.
far
We
as
had a contract, and I don't know if it had, I think we had a date limit on it,
Yeah.
10 years,
okay? Well, the problem is, they have to show, I think if we wanted to push it, they have to show a movement on it, and they've done nothing for, like,
We're the ones who've done the movement.
so.
We're the ones who've done
They've
it.
done
They
absolutely
basically locked
nothing,
in.
other than
There's no
calling and
commitment
calling
date
and calling,
here,
what's
right?
going on, what's going on. We got some feelings
Talking
out
to
there, people
Laura.
like that, we have no response back, whatever. People just aren't doing anything right now, that sort of thing,
There might
okay?
be a reasonable
So-
argument for breach of contract for lack of a
Right.
positive.
I mean,
Joe, I
they've
don't
done
think-
absolutely nothing since we entered into the contract, so.
I don't
think
think there's
Blue
a
Sky would
commitment
be-
date on that though.
Would be ready to jump
On
on
the
this.
contract, I
It's
don't
gonna
think there is a
happen.
commitment
I'll
date,
have
just,
to look, I'll have to
yeah.
look at the contract, I don't know, but I think there's a reason, if we want to get out of it with them.
yeah,
But there's no reason to at this point, and if
Right.
they can build a tower and put it there, that's their investment, and they're
Right.
paying us, whether they
That's
happen to
right.
be on there or not.
Yep.
That's why they're kinda like sitting back, waiting,
And
if they
just-
get, like, if they could get just one cell company to jump on that tower, I think you'd find a bunch of them jumping on it,
yeah,
because nobody wants that market to be,
Just
you know,
as,
by the- you
as
know.
devil's advocate though, if you had some other tower company that was willing to do it, you know, and they would do it sooner, you guys could start making revenue sooner.
well, wasn't there one company that we were going with, but he went out of business or something?
Yeah, they went out, yes, and, so.
If you look in the internet under FirstNet, you could probably come up with several articles. And although I only saw one article, so it's not corroborated, I don't know the reporter who printed the article, but the general idea was that at the very minimum, 950 towers are projected for the state. And of course, you know, most of the northern portion isn't going to require as many.
Didn't we have 2 spots though for the towers to be
Yeah,
put
and
up?
also-
For a second.
It also says in here, under this business review, that they are taking, with additional towers that are already in the residential area. That's why I'm trying to get Blue Sky to say, come on out here, put your tower up, because they're gonna be using it.
They
We
will
already
use-
know, Steve's already told us.
They will enhance additional towers if they're already in
Yeah.
existence,
Right.
but they're also
So-
projecting
Yep.
an additional 950 to be erected at the very minimum.
So basically, what we have is down here at the future highway spot is the
Yep.
main one, and we have a second spot up on Kings Highway at the
Right,
pit,
at the pit, right.
okay? So, that's a potential, not a definite, okay? Blue Sky does have an agreement with us for both spots, and they like both those spots, put towers up at,
Okay,
okay? So basically, this, what's the name of that place, the program that the state's doing?
First net.
Yeah.
FirstNet. So basically, all they want the tower for is put state stuff,
yeah,
for emergency stuff on that tower, that's all that's for.
But
But to do it, so they don't have, they're trying to get some kind of cell tower company like AT&T to help start doing this with them.
Right, and when the governor was on TV on Sunday, he said this
yeah, I saw him,
would enhance
right,
the cell coverage because of what's going on.
right,
So Joanne and I, just to give you a heads up, Joanne and I are waiting until after the holidays to go down and start working with the town of New Durham on, with the planning board over there to go ahead and get that approved down there.
Yeah.
So that's our, Joanne and I is gonna do that, so that could be okay, we got it all squared away. We don't have to worry about that, they can come in, knock that piece, that 100 by 100 out of there and put their tower up.
okay.
So, we're working on it.
Oh, I know you are, I just misunderstood what John said,
Yeah.
that's all, I wanted better clarification, because I
We're gonna get
said,
our money.
I said, oh my God.
If the state puts a tower here in Middleton,
State won't put it.
The state has AT&T for tower here in Middleton.
if AT&T puts a tower in Middleton, is it guaranteed that we can get rent?
Yes.
Okay.
Because it's our land.
Okay, and also Steve mentioned something about, a monthly,
That's, he was saying that if you're using that in FirstNet, and it's first responders don't have to pay for it. But,
For emergency personnel only.
right, but if there's something like the town wants to put something extra on it, then they have to pay for it. But the thing about it is, we have a thing with the agreement with the.
Blue Sky.
With Blue Sky saying we're gonna put a repeater up there. And they understand that we're gonna put a repeater, so that has nothing to do with their system up on the top. I mean, we could utilize that system, but why? Put our repeater up.
But see, Roger, he just said, he said the other night too, how can AT&T put a tower up if we have the contract with Blue Sky?
AT&T will come in and subcontract these towers, they can't put them all up. So that's what we.
AT&T doesn't put the towers up, they subcontract to other
That-
companies.
that was-
So they
that
may
was
have
the
an
other
agreement with Blue
concern.
Sky too. I
Right.
don't know.
That's it, you know, you
Okay.
talk to AT, when I sit down with that guy, say, let's say he's from AT&T, say, hey, we got Blue Sky. Oh, Blue Sky, that's the guy we want to put your tower up, okay, let's do it. You know?
Okay,
Okay,
yep,
so,
All right. Any more on the public participation? We all done? You want me to ask these questions before you? Okay. All right. Anything else? If there's nothing, I make a motion that we adjourn at 8:24.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We have no one on public, so
Go home.
see you next week.
Thank you.